atomic gigantification was a sweeping Japan nation when along came a dude with an ultra attitude, a Kamen rider who's the greatest kicker of Japan. And of all, man, life's too short now, baby, to not talk big now, baby.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Kaiju Conversation Live. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me for the first time on this show, you know him, you love him, he's a great guy, and I'm proud to bring him on here. We got Jacob, and we're going to make that there.
Make it bigger. Hey, what's up, guys? It's good to be here.
So I'm going to take off the sunglasses now. I just wanted them to say hello in that outfit, you know?
Fantastic.
So, welcome to Kaiju Conversation Live, the lovely live stream where there's no real script, there's no real topic, and hopefully our improv skills are as good as our ability to spend our money is. So, why don't you introduce yourself, Jacob, to anybody who doesn't know who you are?
Okay, where do I begin? So, my name's Jacob Lyngle. I am the editor-in-chief of a website that some people like and enjoy called Kaiju United. Elijah writes for us sometimes when he feels like it. And we do a lot of cool, fun stuff. I'm a moderator, a convention programmer, a writer and editor, and a huge Kaiju fan. So, of course, I'm on Kaiju Conversation.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you on here. I think we're going to have a great time here. Chit-chatting about anything and everything. No spoilers. We will not be talking about spoilers, despite the fact that they're running rampant right now.
Keep it out of the chat.
Yeah, nothing in the chat, no spoilers, nothing. We're gonna keep this very anti spoiler, very anti I mean, I'd like to keep it anti-GXK myself, but I think that actually might be a great starting discussion. See if your patience is enough to deal with the fact that I cannot stand the one part of the franchise we love known as the Monsterverse.
Uh-oh. Okay, Elijah, I'll put you on the spot. What is one thing about the Monsterverse that you like?
Kong Skull Island.
Say something nice.
Kong Skull Island. I will defend Kong Skull Island. I will talk nice things about Godzilla 2014, and then I will say nice things about Monarch. Outside of that, it's going to get a little harder, especially once you get to the Wingard part of the franchise, because at that point there's no hope.
There's no hope. So,
there's no hope.
Actually, Kong Skull Island is my favorite of the Monsterverse currently. I feel like it has a lot of heart. John C. Reilly carries that movie on his back and shoulders, and I really like the Skullcrawler as an original design. Just a fun movie, and it's nice getting King Kong without the confines of the traditional 33 story where it's goes to Skull Island, he meets a nice blonde lady, he goes to New York, and dies in New York because you're gonna die in New York. I don't know, I was trying to make a joke there. Yeah, but it's nice. I think they should have done a little more if they're going to do the Vietnam setting, like kind of go home with that anti-war stuff, kind of like -1 was kind of doing. Hate to compare everything to that, but I think they could have gone a little further with that. But I like Jordan Vogt Roberts as a director. I'm really excited to see his Metal Gear movie finally happen. That's not Kaiju related, but I think he'll do a good job.
Real quick in the chat, we've got the entertainment headquarters. Hello. Then Jacob knows how much I hate spoilers, so we will not have any of that here. Now, okay. But here's the thing. I agree with you on what you said about Kong Skull Island, but I also can't help but think that because of those good things about Kong Skull Island, that kind of puts GVK out at a disadvantage because of how it kind of takes everything pre-established and just gets rid of it.
I think that's a MonsterVerse wide issue. They kind of start over every movie, which you could take that as a positive. You could take that as a negative. The positive means that you can jump into any one of those movies and you get a whole package. You get a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
If you're trying to examine it as a cinematic universe, you're going to have some problems. As we've seen with Monarch, Monarch's a pretty good show, but those comics do not exist anymore in the canon. Not that I think they ever were. I think they were always loose, soft, tie-in stuff, but a lot of people love those comics. So, I don't know.
See, and I never understood the hype around them. I don't know. There's just something about them starting with Awakening that just never really just drew me in, you know? It just, I don't know. They just always seemed like, oh, they're there. Like if you really want to deep dive into the stuff, you know, you can read them, you can check them out, but they're not really that important to the rest of the universe.
No, not really until they might. I mean, I can't spoil anything, but hopefully going forward that changes. But yeah, it's like I also grew up with the Michael Bay Transformers movies, so Elijah's just gonna be like, you grew up on trash, Jacob. So that happened with those two, and Shockwave was this like super big deal villain, and he first showed up in a tie-in comic. It was like a prequel comic, and he killed a bunch of the Autobots from the second movie in this comic, so they don't show up in the third. So it's like, oh, you better read the comics. I hate that.
See, and that's the beauty behind the whole concept of comic book tie-ins. It's just the fact that like you have to make it so if people who don't want to dive into it, like they don't miss out on much needed context, but you also have to make it worth the while of the people who do buy it to read it and have even more context.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you did bring up GVK, and I was very surprised. Not that Rotten Tomatoes is your end-all be-all. Please do not consider that your end-all be-all. Go watch movies for yourself and formulate your own opinions. But I was very shocked when Godzilla vs. Kong came out, and it had a whopping 80%. And I think after, God, has it been 3 years? Yes, it has. Okay. So after 3 years of that movie being out, I really think if you like the movie, that's fantastic. Go have fun and watch the movie. If you don't like the movie, don't watch it. It's fine.
I won't.
It's like the duality of man's right here. I have fun with GVK. Elijah doesn't like it. You know, we both share the whole audience's conveyed opinions here. But what I was saying is a lot of people loved it because it got straight to the point. It was, you want to see some monster action? There you go. You know, everyone complained about the people. Okay, there you go. The people aren't important. Come see the monster action, jump on the roller coaster, and get entertained. And I don't know if this is a bad take, but when it came out, I compared it to The Rise of Skywalker, because it's like the studio going, all right, here's what you want.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
the only difference is I feel, well, I mean, Rise of Skywalker was a step in the right direction, but it also like didn't work because of The Last Jedi being The Last Jedi. See,
we won't get into that.
here's the thing. So I think one of the biggest things that I ever did on this show so far, on the main podcast show, not extended interviews or live streams or anything like that, but Rex and I did for 50th episode, we did a special two-parter called Everything Wrong with Godzilla vs. Kong, where we sat on StreamYard and talked about everything wrong with the movie. We watched the movie, and then we would pause it when we had a complaint, and then we would talk about it, and then press play and keep going. I did not rip off CinemaSins, I swear to God. But like GVK rubbed me the wrong way. And the reason for that is I can't help but think that everything that they complained about in 1998 can be found in GVK. The only difference is the design for Godzilla and his powers are restored to what people relate to the character. So my arguments, like the sentence for my thesis is Godzilla versus Kong is a less faithful adaptation of the original character than 1998, and I stand by that.
Hey, I didn't know we were sharing our hot takes in here. Just say this is hot takes hour, okay? So
And people
ahead.
hate that take, by the way. Like I will get like attacked for that one.
Put down your pitchforks. I'm here to argue with Elijah for you. That being said, does that mean G98 is way too over? I guess I'm going to say the word. Can I swear on this stream?
If you want to.
Okay. I was going to say it's too overshat on.
Okay. Yes and no. I think people. I hate the argument 1998 is a bad Godzilla movie, but a good monster movie. I hate that statement because, and this is going to be a long-winded answer, so get ready for the journey. Okay.
All right, I got my water.
And this goes all the way up to present day, where the statement can be made: "Oh, Godzilla King of the Monsters is a good Godzilla movie, but it's a bad movie." Those same fans are the same ones that say, well, 1998 is a bad Godzilla movie, but it's a good monster movie. And the idea that Godzilla movies are different from monster movies or regular movies, I think is a little too pretentious and a little too downgrading. Because on one hand, they're saying, okay, monster movies are not regular movies. Okay, sure, but that's also downgrading. But then saying that Godzilla movies are different from movies and regular movies, monster movies and regular movies, yeah. It really sounds like those people are trying to say, hey, Godzilla's not actual cinema, it's his own thing. Hey, Godzilla's better than monster movies. It's Godzilla cinema. Like, and it's this whole thing about trying to make an argument for a bad movie. And for 1998's case, I think it comes down to the fact that 1998, the most recent time I watched it was actually last year. I watched it at G-Fest at the Pickwick. That was last year, right? Yeah. And that movie, it is very much a 90s movie. Like, it is 100% dated in the 90s. When it came out, it was instantly dated. Like, it had no longevity. it will forever be known as like one of the last 1990s blockbusters. And it's no secret that the people working on it outside of Dean Devlin really didn't care. um, like everybody just kind of was there. Jean Reno though, like did an amazing job, and there are good aspects to 1990. Jean Reno as Philippe, like amazing. There's a reason Kitamura-san was going to use him for Captain Gordon in Final Wars at one point.
What, over Don Fry?
See, I wouldn't pick anybody over Don Fry, but I would have loved to have seen an alternate version with Jean Reno. I would have loved to have seen Sonny Chiba. I would have loved to have seen Christopher Lambert. Like they were all great choices for that character.
Sonny Chiba?
Sonny Chiba was in the running. Yeah. That would have been awesome to see him like take on Godzilla.
Sonny Chiba versus Godzilla. Oh my god! And then a side note, because isn't it Sonny Chiba that started Japan Action Club?
Yes, sir.
So there's that connection right there. Because many of these suit actors got their start with Japan Action Club to become stuntmen for Toei. So that would have been cool.
It would have been awesome. Sonny Chiba, that connection would have been so awesome. And to think that he never did any Godzilla stuff kind of blows my mind. Like, that's the closest he's ever had.
But he did Wolf Guy.
He did. And I own that movie, and I've seen that.
so do I.
And it's a movie.
It is a movie.
Oh, boy. It's a wild movie. That's for certain.
So you say there's no lasting legacies for Godzilla 98. I'm gonna beg to differ because no other Godzilla movie has had a absolute banger of a Puff Daddy song in its soundtrack.
Oh my god.
I almost said that with a straight face. Almost.
See, I could criticize you, but I own the cassette tape single of that. I own the remix single CD. I own the actual album on CD. I own the single for it on CD. The only thing I don't have is the vinyl. And then I would have every single release of that stupid song.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe this is why we get along.
It might be. I'm reading some of the comments too, by the way. A good friend Kevin at the entertainment headquarters. GVK is a great film for monster action, but lacks story. I prefer G14 with less action, but a grounded story. KOTM gets a bad rap for the cutaways, but it's still a better film than GVK. You know, when King of the Monsters came out, Elijah's frozen. Okay, there we go. When King of the Monsters came out, I said on my social media that this is what I want out of a Hollywood Godzilla movie. Has that take aged well? Who's to say? I don't know how I feel, but I had a good time at the cinema when it came out. I was having fun.
See, and to that point, I also will go on record and I'll admit when King of the Monsters came out, I did cry in that movie. It's all about the rebirth scene. The rebirth scene with the Ifukube music and everything. Perfect. Peak Hollywood Godzilla cinema right there. That is the best shot that any American Hollywood Godzilla film has ever had.
Yes.
So I will admit that. And then I will also admit that when it came out initially, I said that this is the best. It was in my top 5. It was in my top 5 Godzilla movies. And since I have started rewatching these movies, since I've finally watched Akira Kurosawa, which, by the way, Jacob, I got Throne of Blood the next day. and I watched it the following day. So I have now watched Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood is so good.
Well, let's.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, let's put a pin in that because I want to talk about that with you.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about Throne of Blood at sometime in this live stream.
It's Toho. I think it counts.
It counts. It's Kurosawa. It's J-horror-esque. It counts. It's perfectly in line. I mean, we talked about Oppenheimer on this show, so we can talk basically anything.
Sweet. We're gonna talk some Kurosawa in a minute.
We will. It was good, but then rewatching it and once I started to pick it apart and notice things about the cinematography and the CGI and everything, it started to slowly deteriorate in terms of how highly I valued it. Plus, a lot of people like to throw this in as a take for gatekeepers in air quotes. But I am not one to shy away from my opinions. I'm a very opinionated individual. But I am not a gatekeeper. But I will say that I do agree with the sentiment that King of the Monsters is pro nuclear weapons when necessary.
I can agree with that. I don't think that is deniable. Especially with the end credits where it's like, oh, the radiation from the Kaiju Titans. The radiation from the Titans has grown the agriculture back, which is interesting coming from a Godzilla film. If it wasn't Godzilla, whatever. I guess you're, leaning that way with your monsters, but coming from a Godzilla film, that is kind of the antithesis of the entire point.
And see, that's something that I think both King of the Monsters and GVK in their own respective rights have had an issue with. King of the Monsters is the antithesis of the concept of nuclear energy, nuclear weapons. By film, it does shift on whether or not a director is talking about nuclear energy or nuclear weapons because they are two different things. And I mean, like Megaguirus is all about nuclear energy being bad. But then other films will not say that nuclear energy is bad. They'll say nuclear weapons are bad. I think about how I want to say in Godzilla vs. Destroya, I mean, it's basically that film is about Godzilla's melting down like a nuclear reactor, nuclear energy. But then when you look at films like 54 and whatnot, it's all about nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are what causes the problems in Godzilla vs. Megalon, a film that everybody likes to discredit and say doesn't have anything in it. It starts with stuff. It literally starts with commentary on nuclear weapons being the reason that the Zootopians are pissed. And I will defend Megalon the live long day. I love that movie.
Oh my god. Megalon is I'm going to hot take a little bit here. Megalon is a masterpiece and entertainment spectacle, but it also has a pretty good story that's pretty likable. Like I forget their names, the inventor, his roommate, and the little boy. I'm so bad with some of the names in these movies. So those characters are all really likable. The bad guys are classic Showa era, despicable mustache twirling Showa, villains, and I love that. I do kind of miss in storytelling when villains were just dastardly little guys. They're just like, oh, and I kind of miss that. Not everyone's got to be super complex and he was wronged by this, or that's cool. That's riveting storytelling, but I like the guys in suits that are like the Yakuza, but they're just like, waha, I want to steal Jet Jaguar.
So what I'm hearing is Doctor Who is your favorite villain.
Well, I love King Kong Escapes. I think that movie is a blast. I love Doctor Who. I also love the villain in Latitude Zero because that is the most insane mad scientist character in any of Toho's library, in my opinion. That movie is just batshit, and I love it.
We have
Hello, Alex.
Hey, so I'm trying to remember. We went off into it. Oh, Megalon. Oh, antithesis. Yes. Um. So it does change on what the film is talking about, but in like King of the Monsters, they use a nuke to save Godzilla, and then Godzilla has nuclear energy, so it's pro-nuclear energy and it's pro-nuclear weapons because the nuclear weapons end up saving the day. That's the same. Okay, I'm trying to think if this is something that might get spicy or not. I'm gonna tread very lightly, and I'm gonna talk about an Oppenheimer. I'm gonna talk about Oppenheimer. We'll talk about that. That way, I don't say anything that people will take.
I got something spicy. I got something spicy. Hey
Let's hear
guys,
it.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet.
Oh, well, you know how the movie ends.
Yeah, I know how it ends. I like history. I know the spiel on Oppenheimer's life.
So at the end of Oppenheimer, they talk about how they ended the war. You know what I'm talking about. The whole reason Oppenheimer was hired to help create a weapon to end the war. The United States government in the film talks very highly of the weapon and talks how it is a good thing because it ended the war. Now, then you get into the whole, Oppenheimer's opinion on the fallout of that, not just in general, but in terms of his own mental state after that. Now I've become death, the destroyer of worlds, all that whole shebang. But the United States government viewed that as a good thing. And in King of the Monsters, they view the bomb they use as a good thing. Sarazawa's got that lizard juiced. It is, I would say, I don't understand how people can't see it. But I feel like it is very clear that is what is kind of not maybe entirely meant to be said, but it is being said. And I think that just comes down to the writing of the film.
It is, and I think it's a cultural thing too, because I mean, I don't remember who said this, but I'm sure you've heard it before. America's toxic waste creates superheroes. The Toxic Avenger, in a way, that's kind of satire, or the Incredible Hulk, or Daredevil. But our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or stuff like that. But toxic or nuclear or environmental or any kind of pollutant or waste, on the other side of the sea creates horrible monsters. Not cool. This is, a rad monster. I guess Godzilla's rad. We wouldn't be here if we didn't think that. But you know what I mean? It's a threat. It is scary. It is a cautionary tale. But on the American side, all of this nasty stuff just turns people into super beings, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And to further on my whole antithesis thing, because I think that's a great way to kind of really hit the nail on the board for King of the Monsters. So the original King Kong versus Godzilla, as we all know, was a film based around the wrestling scene in Japan at the time and commercialism and capitalism. How mindless entertainment was rotting the minds of citizens because they just wanted fast, fun entertainment. They weren't, investing in a lot. And it was a satire of everything going on. I will forever and ever say that the best information, the best source of information for any of this stuff is on Monstrosities. It is the Patrick Galvin history of King Kong versus Godzilla video. It is like 50 minutes long. It is a amazing video. I cannot recommend it enough. Matt outdid himself once again.
And Patrick Galvin is one of the best writers in our community. I devoutly read anything that Patrick Galvin publishes. In fact, unrelated to what we're talking about, we're going to do that a lot. Patrick reviewed Shin Kamen Rider, a movie I had fun with and enjoyed, and he didn't like it. But his review was so good, I came back and was like, you're right. Everything you said was true. So that kind of writer is the writer we need to talk about these movies, to do film criticism. So yes, I nothing but hyping up Patrick Galvin. Monstrosities is a great channel. If you guys have not checked it out, are you living under a rock? I don't know. What does that mean?
I mean, at this point, like especially on this show, I praise the work of Matt. Like that whole channel is full of amazing content.
Yes. So yeah, Patrick Galvin's fantastic. I will gush about Galvin's writing and work through thick and thin. Galvin's a master writer, and Matt does some dope videos.
So in there, like they did a whole thing about the entertainment industry at the time in Japan and how King Kong versus Godzilla was that. And then when you look at Godzilla versus Kong, and I think the philosophy of Godzilla versus Kong can be summarized by a single sentence that Adam Wingard said in his infamous commentary that I will forever and ever complain about, and you will never hear me stop complaining about it. And our characters are, honestly, none of this really matters. It doesn't make any sense. It's a giant monster movie. You're here for the giant monsters. End quote. Unfortunately,
Some people will agree with them. There are people that watch those movies for the pew pew smash smash crush crush. I kind of fall in the middle. I watch my Bergmans, I watch my Kurosawas, I watch my heavy hitting, The Human Condition, Showa, Come and See, these heavy, intense commentaries on the living experience of a human being. But I also like seeing Godzilla do a drop kick into Megalon, and that kind of gives me a little dopamine rush. The great part about Godzilla is he can be either one. I think he's the most malleable character in fictional history. But that being said, through that entertainment spectacle, even Megalon, Gigan, Son of Godzilla, Godzilla's Revenge, all of those movies still had something to say at the end of the day.
They did, and to hear, especially just the prior movie before, and this is all. I mean, I've said this. I've talked my head off on this. I could probably write a full-fledged article on why GVK is the antithesis to the Godzilla franchise. Michael Dougherty, in an interview, I want to say it was with Total Film, he said, God, I really want to pull up his exact quote here because I love his exact quote, because even though his movie failed to deliver everything, I think this is probably one of the most truest statements that anybody on the English side working on these films has ever said. Let me see if I can find it real quick. We got Helmy in the chat. Hello, Helmy.
Helmy's got the coolest freaking movie room. I want Helmy's movie room. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but that's like my dream, like man cave cinema room. Helmy has it. He's got like movie posters everywhere, like illuminated theater style movie posters. He's got the figures. Like, oh my gosh. If I had money, that's what my basement would look like.
I have seen a few photos of Helmy's theater. I think Kaiju Theater, I think is what he calls it. And
Yes.
I try to not look too hard because I probably shouldn't invest in a whole nother a whole nother room that I already can't afford. I already have 2 rooms. I don't need a third room.
Oh no.
Okay. So it was Total Film Magazine. And you're welcome, Helmy, but thank you for being such an awesome person and having such an awesome room.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning into this live stream.
So it was Total Film Magazine. Here's what Michael Dougherty said. Quote, "It wouldn't be a true Godzilla film if you didn't touch upon those things. Otherwise, you're just making a big, dumb, giant monster movie. There has to be a sprinkle of it. Otherwise, you're not being faithful to the original intent of the series. Anyone who thinks otherwise is not a true Godzilla fan." End quote. Michael Dougherty being a gatekeeper on the record. I love that quote. Not only because it's Michael Dougherty literally gatekeeping, but I think that is a legitimate, very true thing. I think like you have to cover certain things about some sort of environmental or nuclear or even war. Like covering these topics is something the Godzilla franchise has done historically.
Mm-hmm.
And up until 2021, that was the case for everything. In some way, shape, or form, everything touched upon those things. Even 1998, 1998 is the French government having to come in and like try to cover up their mistakes. Philippe even says like he's here to cover up his country's mistakes. And so to get that from the Monsterverse director prior to Adam Wingard, and then Adam Wingard say the exact opposite thing, like it just adds to my thought that GVK is in a way the antithesis to not only the original King Kong versus Godzilla, because it is just a commercialized big fun dumb fight.
It's a movie they would watch in King Kong versus Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the original Japanese version of King Kong versus Godzilla is a masterpiece. I know some people aren't fond of it. I tell you to watch the original Japanese cut on the supplements disc of the Criterion Collection. It is a masterpiece. It is a brilliant comedy satire on media sensationalism, as Elijah pointed out. Such a great movie. And it's kind of entertaining as hell, even with the, just, I guess, with the satire, with Mr. Taco being Mr. Taco, but also with, like, I don't know, was it Kong Suit Actor a wrestler too, or is that incorrect info?
I've
heard both. I just want to make sure I have my info right.
I'm trying to think. I know who it was. I literally just heard his name 2 nights ago. I'm
looking it up right now. We don't know much about him. I got to pull up his name, but
he did get fired. I know he got fired because he lied to Tsuburaya. Because he was supposed to go to the zoo and watch apes. And then he would later on do, I think he was in, Josh Holloway in the comments just said he was a wrestler.
Okay.
But I want to say it was either King Kong Escapes. It was King Kong Escape, not King Kong Escapes, King Kong versus Godzilla. After the filming of that movie, Tsuburaya found out that he didn't go to the zoo. He did not do research. He did not pass go. He did not collect $200. And so they fired him. and they went and they hired somebody new to be the suit actor, starting with what would be Ghidorah the three-headed monster, because Subaraya did not tolerate somebody who straight up lied to him. And then Helmy says, "Hold up, Jacob, you have a My Grail poster? Is that a B1 Final Wars poster?"
It's not. I had you fooled for a minute. That is a print I got on movieposters.com. I'm not that cool, but it is signed up by all the guests that I met and interviewed at All Monsters Attack convention in LA and Chicago. So everyone that worked on Final Wars has got that signed up. So it is one of my prized possessions, but it is just a print. The only original B2 I have a B2. I have a B2 of Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, but it's a DVD advertisement poster that's like the theatrical, and then it says DVD at the bottom. And I have that signed by Tsutomu Kitagawa and Yumiko Shaku, and that's another prized possession. If I duck right here real quick, because I am a cinema guy, that poster behind me is my favorite film of all time, Phantom of the Paradise. That's an original from 1974, uncut. So if you're an original poster guy, that's a good one. And yeah, that's me.
And then we got Brendan in the chat. Hey guys, hey Brendan.
Brendan.
So it's funny you have a poster. Josh Holloway says, "Great flick, by the way, Jacob."
So
it's
good.
funny you have your poster signed for all the people from Final Wars. So at AMA 2022, my first Chicago.
Chicago,
right?
That was 2023. It was May.
Was it? Oh God.
That year felt like an eternity.
I don't. My 2021, 2, and 3 just kind of have compressed together. I bought the Final Wars completion book at the Japan Legends table, and I got everybody that was there that was in Final Wars to sign it. I have since then had Don Fry sign it. I'm missing, I want to say, 2 suit actors, I think. That sounds about right too. And my goal is to get as many people who worked on Final Wars to sign that completion book.
That's me. That's me in this poster.
I'm hopeful that G-Fest this year will bring either Toyama-san or Kitamura-san.
That'd be great.
Or honestly, my personal and it's funny because I just watched one of his newest movies last night. I would love to get Kazuki Kitamura. I love Kazuki Kitamura. I would love to get his signature. For anybody who doesn't know who Kazuki Kitamura is, he is the controller of Planet X. He is the Exilian commander. He was in Takashi Yamazaki's Parasite Part 1 and Parasite Part 2. And he was in Takashi Miike's The Great Yokai War Guardians. That man walks with such what's I don't even know how to describe it. He's just
gravitas. I don't know.
Yes, he's I would love to get his signature. I'd love for him to come to G-Fest.
Here's another one. Get it in the frame. This is a print, but it's signed by Yoshida-san, Godzilla, Ohashi-san, Ghidorah, and then Ota-san, Baragon over here.
That's awesome.
I was a dumb young kid when Kadeko-san was at G-Fest, so he signed my Bandai Baragon because it was one of my first figures, which is cool. But I'd rather have his auto on that. So hopefully he comes back too.
Then Helmy says, I just got that post recently from Yahoo Auctions B1. That's a beautiful poster. It reminded me so much of Orai. And then Josh Holloway says that's a beautiful poster of GMK.
I will say that there's a little weird scribble on Ohashi's signature because he accidentally wrote 2022, but it was 2023. So I have one of a kind, which is okay. Things happen. I'm not like, oh my God, it's ruined. But yeah, it's fun. Collectibles are fun.
I collect too much personally.
Have you look at my background, Elijah? There's figures, there's records, there's books.
Well, it's good that I don't do any of my streams at my own house, because if I did, there would be no space in the back. It would just be full. On a couple of times where I've had to do like video calls or something.
Excuse me.
In my room at my house. Like the first thing people say to me is, "Whoa, you got a crazy background. What is all that?" And then like the first 5 minutes of like, even if it's like a meeting, like I gotta be like, well, this is a Godzilla 2014 King of the Monsters poster I bought back in 2014. This is a Noriyoshi Arai Godzilla versus King Ghidorah concept art poster. And I gotta point at the shelves above that. That's Ultraman, that's Ultraman Jack, that's Tiga, that's and then like the first 5, and then they ask me questions and they're like, what's this? What's that? What's this? And then like I'm like, can we just get like we're supposed to be doing important stuff. So as Josh has said here, the best conversation starter, it is like no matter what, it doesn't fail. People have to say they have to bring up something about my background when I'm there.
Exactly. That's my mom. Hello, Mom. Yes, one of many collections.
See, I need to. I keep buying stuff, and I think it's I might need to slow down because I keep buying stuff like nonstop, and it's getting problematic.
I'm gonna shout out Josh Holloway real quick. He does a dope page called Majin's Beard where he does some cool fan edits. But he is of my friends, he's the guy that knows the most about Hong Kong action, wuxia, and Shaw Brothers, and all of those kind of like Shaolin Wu-Tang movies.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is a walking encyclopedia. Like unbelievable knowledge of those movies. So,
cool Super Inframan. Super Inframan.
Super Inframan. Yeah.
I have an original US poster for Super Inframan that I got at AMA. I still haven't framed it because it's huge. Like I need to get a custom frame for it.
It's your centerpiece.
Did you say that's my centerpiece, or did you ask what is my centerpiece?
I did ask that. I did say that is your centerpiece, like your fireplace mantle centerpiece. I want to know what is. I want to know what is.
That is a question. My centerpiece. I mean, I know what my most prized possession is, but I don't know if that would be my centerpiece. And I know what like one of my favorite figures is, and I know one of my like all-time like Holy Grail figures is, but I don't know if they'd be my centerpieces. There's so much. Like I've got some building debris and suit pieces from the 98 suit. I've got some 35 millimeter strips from like Atragon and Godzilla versus the Thing, and I've got a 2000 35 millimeter trailer. I've got a 98 one. I've got a 16 millimeter of Godzilla meets Bambi. That one's pretty cool. Shogun Warriors Godzilla. That's on high up on my list. I love that thing. I've got an original German poster for Youngeri. Got an original US poster for Ape. My most prized possession is like it's probably worthless at this point, but it is a 1998 Scimitar VHS of Terror of Mechagodzilla. Because that tape was the first introduction I had to Kaiju, Tokusatsu, Godzilla, giant monsters. That was the beginning of a very, very expensive and time-consuming hobby that has probably transformed into an obsession that is starting to transform into a minor career, which never thought that would happen. But that's probably like if there was a fire and I could only save one thing, it would be that. That would be the one thing I would save.
I would save my signed 8x10 of Elijah Thomas.
I will be doing signatures at G Fest 2024 for anybody who wants a signed. Here, let me. You can take a screenshot real quick so you can get it signed. Okay, there you go. So now you're gonna have to rewind and take a screenshots, and I'll give you a little signature.
I find a way to poke you with a stick a little bit. You just one up me.
Well, it is kind of funny. I have been in a movie. And I've got a friend who was also in that movie, and we joke about how like what we should do is buy the Blu-ray of that movie, and then we all just sign it, and then we get the rest of the cast to sign, and we just have this like one signed copy of Zillafoot from 2021.
You're in Zillafoot?
I'm in Zillafoot.
I didn't know that.
I'm the first. I'm like this. No, I'm the second person on screen. That's after the opening credits and the black and white footage. I'm the second person you see in this exact same area. I'm on set. I wore glass. Did I wear glasses? Yes, I wore glasses. I had Xbox headphones that I borrowed from a friend.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. Goji Fan 93 might be going to G-Fest. That's cool. I remember meeting him a long time ago, like G-Fest 2015, 2017.
See, I've seen like it's funny. If we're talking about YouTubers, if we don't count my like immediate friends, because to me we're not YouTubers, like we're friends. We hang out, when we do streams, we're just doing that to hang out. I've never viewed that as like, oh, we're YouTubers. I've met Kaiju Movie Review, Daniel Wickwire, back in 2019. I've like seen MIB and D-Man and a bunch of other. There's another person I've met, but we can't talk about him anymore. We don't talk about him anymore.
Oh no.
We don't talk about Jono, but there's your little hint. Josh says he's a TikToker. I know. Apparently, there's a lot of Godzilla TikTokers.
There's good numbers. I mean, Josh has 30,000 followers on TikTok, which is pretty cool.
See, I've never done
the market. If I had more time to devote to like actual content creation when I'm not doing all these interviews and convention paneling and programming and all that fun editor-in-chiefing stuff, I would absolutely dive into that. I think that's an untapped market.
See, I've never done the whole TikTok thing. I don't. First, I don't even have the time. Like today, my whole day was like scheduled out. Like I had blocks. Like I had a hair appointment. I had a meeting I had to attend. I had to go shopping for some stuff. Then I've got this, and then when I get home, I got more I got to do. I just my whole like life is staged. Like it's all like everything is like scheduled out. It's actually right here. I don't leave home without it. I have this little planner, and this is what I use to plan everything with.
Stay organized.
Like I had to last year, and this is not me complaining. I am eternally grateful for all the stuff I got to do last year. There would be weekends where I would do a Kaiju Conversation live, a Kaiju Conversation episode recording, a live stream on Kaiju Weekly, and then like the 2 days later, I would have to do a stream with somebody else as a guest appearance. And it got to the point where like I was streaming so much. There was like a weekend I spent like 16 hours in front of a laptop streaming.
I used to. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Time for some lore. I used to help Joseph with what's now called DKU TV. I used to help out in 2015, 2016, 2017. I was their horror host for the Halloween stuff alongside Josh Holloway. So I would do a 24-hour monster horror marathon. And let me tell you, streaming for 24 hours straight is really tough on your sleep. I used to use OBS, Open Broadcasting Software, and making sure that ran smoothly was tough. So, yes, with Josh Holloway in the comments with the Halloween Spectacular, which I think he still does to this day. So, it's really fun.
See, it's funny. So back in 2020. Yes, 2020. I was invited to help with, yes, it was 2020. To help with a little thing called Kaiju Quarantine. It was like this weekend streaming event that me and a group of podcasters did. We did one that I just showed up and talked over a movie. That's all I did. And then the second one, same thing. I did a little bit of voice work and whatnot, but I didn't do a whole lot. But for the third one, I ended up taking over as the host for like the broadcast itself. So I had to film skits. I like had a whole costume. I had a whole set and everything. I wrote a script and everything. And since you've done stuff like this, at the end of any horror, like Svengoolie or Elvira or something, the final thing you do is you break out in song and dance. Yeah. So I wrote a parody of the Monster Mash called the Quarantine Cast. And it was this song about Kaiju quarantine. And I had a friend of mine come in a monkey suit, supposed to be King Kong. He wore a sombrero and danced on set. I was dancing and singing. I was wearing a Godzilla mask. I wrote this whole thing. It was such a huge hit. They told me that I had to stop the stream and play it again.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Hey, did you perform the theme song that opened our stream?
No, but I did write it. So that was done by the amazing Danny DeManna of the Godzilla Novelization Project. So there's a little bit of lore behind because that intro was like 2 years in the making. Back in like 2020, 2019, it might have been 2019. I was talking with one of my friends. His name's Connor Baxter. He does Invader design. He does 3D models and whatnot. And he jokingly said, "Hey, you should do the Godzilla rap by Caveman Bob as the Kaiju Conversation intro." And I was like, that's a great idea. But for me, it's like, okay, if you're gonna do something like that, if you're gonna take and do copyrighted, I don't know if that's copyrighted, but if you're gonna take material and use it, make it your own. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? I was like, you know what? What if I paid somebody to make the beats, and then we would just, cut some audio and whatnot, and have somebody see Kaiju Conversation, and then just move on from there. I reached out to somebody. They weren't interested in working with me, and so then it like sat on hold for months. And then I was like, you know what? Let me get the lyrics to the Godzilla rap from Godzilla and Other Movie Monsters. If anybody hasn't seen that, it's a 1998 documentary full of errors, but it was like one of the earliest like documentaries that I watched religiously as a kid. And I got the lyrics and I was like, okay, so Rex and we wrote this to like include all of Tokusatsu. And then once we wrote it out, I was like, okay, I don't want to sing it because I don't want people to hear my voice in the intro and then it just goes to, hello, everybody, welcome back to Kaiju Conversation. Like, I don't want to do that. That's really narcissistic. So I was like, okay, who would do this? And Danny loves the Godzilla rap. And I was like, hey, Danny, I've got this song. I commissioned somebody, Grattan Conwell from Giant Monster BS, that podcast. I commissioned him to make the beats. And then I was like, hey, I got this beat. I got these lyrics. It's a parody of the Godzilla rap from Godzilla and Other Movie Monsters. Would you want to do this for me? And we worked it out. He did it. And now we have the official Kaiju Conversation rap as
Amazing.
as what we've called it.
Oh, the gang's all here. Tokusatsu BTS and Kaijumi, a dick.
Hello. I love that profile picture, by the way. I love me some -1 Yamazaki Godzilla.
Man, I'm just shouting out everyone in the comments because they're all great people, and KU's all about the community recognition. Tokusatsu BTS. That's an inside joke. I will explain that off the air. That just derailed me. Oh my gosh. Tokusatsu BTS. If you don't follow them on Instagram, they post a lot of behind the scenes material, a lot of promotional stuff, a lot of nice archival stuff. So really great page run by a really great friend. And then Kaijumi here does some great figure reviews. Some really probably the coolest Shin Godzilla collection I've ever seen, because Shin Godzilla is the favorite on that channel. And Elijah's muted. There we go.
So we're about an hour in. We haven't talked about Kurosawa yet.
Oh yes.
Do you want to switch gears here, or do you want to keep going down the rabbit hole that we're in?
How much time do I have? We're at the hour mark. I don't know how long you want to keep it going.
So the rule about Kaiju Conversation Live is there's no set time for it to be over. The longest the stream has went, if you want a challenge for the longest stream, hang on. It was with Danny. Danny helped me get the longest stream. Here, let me pull it up. Fair warning, StreamYard did break. It was 7 hours, 16 minutes, and 25 seconds. So you want to go for that, we can try. I'm gonna have to go buy more energy drinks because I only bought 2. But I could let you have the board and you run solo for about 20 minutes while I go pick those up and come back.
I did that on Instagram Live a while back. I went live as Kaiju United, and I was like, "Hi, everybody, I'm live." I definitely need to work on just live streaming as a solo presence because I was like, "Hey, everybody," but I also don't want to bore people out, so I don't want to go for the record today, but I could keep going for a little bit.
Okay. We do have.
Oh, go ahead.
We do have a question in the chat. Tokusatsu BTS, a discussion
Yes.
based on what you want/don't want on a future, not on a future, on the future. By the way, I'm just gonna say that. Heisei Millennium box sets. Then we also got Kaiju Fanatic in the groups, in the chat. And then Josh is saying, "Let's talk Kurosawa. I love and fear."
In fear. Okay. So let's answer Joseph's question real quick. The Tokusatsu BTS. I think Elijah agrees with me. I think they screwed the art up on the Showa set. There's a lot of weird things that happened with that. And when I was talking to, maybe Matt was talking to somebody else. Matt Frank was talking about it a little bit. I think it was on Brendan's live stream, now that I remember correctly, because our talk spoilers is coming, but it's not out yet. So he was saying pretty much that someone was like, "Matt, how come you're not on this Godzilla set?" And he was like, "There's a Godzilla set?" And they just, I guess it was like, if you wanted to jump on, you could jump on. And for better or worse, that's how it happened. And there's a lot of weird inconsistencies. There's a Millennium Godzilla design for what's supposed to be a 70s Godzilla design. I like the front cover. I think the front cover is really cool, and it's kind of a stylized design. But I would like to see some Eggletons, some Matt Franks, some other incredibly talented individuals in the community, some of the James Stokoes of this world, to do some art for this collection and actually do it right. Also, I'd rather them do something closer to the Bruce Lee set or maybe the Zatoichi set. I think the big book thing is where am I going to put it? So, that's my rant.
To start. So here's the issue with this question. You don't just ask me my opinion on this and it go quickly. So here's a little bit of lore. So back in 2019, when the set came out, I wrote a article. It was my first article, fun fact. My first article I ever wrote was on GodzillaMovies.com, and it was about a review for the Godzilla Criterion set. In there, I went and I did a deep dive on the history of how we got to this box set. I talked about each of the artworks, all of the bonus features, all of the films, all of that. So I went and I did a whole thing. And it was such a huge article and it went in deep detail that they loved it and they ran it. And then I went and I recorded a 9-hour podcast about why I didn't like the box set. Spoiler alert. That podcast has since gone missing. I don't know where that's at. But somewhere in the ether was me talking about my problems with that box set. So I agree with Jacob on making it like the Bruce Lee or Zatoichi box set. Smaller in scale, or just like the Kurosawa box set from over a decade ago that they did with 27 of his films.
Yes.
First, it's gonna be Criterion. It's gonna be Criterion. They already have 84. They already have Biollante. They already have King Ghidorah. They already have Mothra. They have the theatrical rights to Against Mechagodzilla, Final Wars, Destroya, and SOS. They're gonna have it. They don't have the streaming rights to Final Wars. They don't have any of the rights to 2000s, and I think that's all they're missing. Now, we have another comment here. A few nights ago, I think the Sony stuff will get a box set. Then towards November, we might get a complete box set with the 3 hours eras. We're not gonna get that for a while. From what I know. So when the Showa box set came out, the reason it took 2 years, from Criterion announcing, hey, we have all of the Showa Godzilla movies besides 4. The reason it took them 2 years was they waited to negotiate a deal with Universal. Then they waited till the rights lapsed for the Kraken licenses for Sea Monster, Gigan, and Hedorah. At one point, that would have also been Son of Godzilla, by the way, but due to some issues, that didn't happen. And then there was also an alternate timeline where Classic Media actually released both Ebra and Son of Godzilla, but that's the whole nother discussion. But I wish that would have happened. Real quick, Mazer Patrol, Little Princess from the Moon B and A6. See, that's funny because Criterion's had that one for 10 years, over 10 years.
I watched
and
it on the Criterion channel, and it has Toshiro Mifune in it. I'm like, where's the physical release?
So because the complicated rights with Final Wars in 2000 still, and that's just because of timing and when they renewed licenses and whatnot, we're not going to get a set from Criterion. Not until 2026, 2027. Around that time's when we can expect it, simply because they got to wait for 2025. After 2025, they have the rights to all of the films. Now, Kraken lost the rights to Gigan, Sea Monster, and Hedorah in 2019, and then they later released that box set in 2019. I would like to think they will take the constructive criticism of a lack of bonus features and correct that, but I don't know if Criterion will, because the set sold really, really well. But I would like to think that they would hold off on releasing those until they create some bonus features. And then, of course, I legitimately believe we'll get a solo release of Shin and -1 from Criterion. I think that's almost a shoo-in at this point. I think both are so highly regarded that they're going to get their own solo releases, like Okja.
Absolutely. Criterion also has that new... it's Criterion Janus, their parent companies, whatever. They have that new label where it's movies that are fresh out of theaters. I don't remember the name. It's Janus something. You could put -1 on that.
You could. And so I don't think we're going to get that release for the Heisei Millennium, and they're going to do it together. They're not going to do them separate. We will never, ever, ever get to see Heisei and Millennium separate again. Never again.
I would just call it Godzilla the Heisei or Heisei. I'm terrible at Japanese, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and
just call it that. Kamen Rider Sentai, everybody else does it. That period of Japanese dynasty and history did not end until 2019. All of those movies are Heisei films.
And I do think it'd be interesting because when you look at it, the Millennium films, the only difference is the fact that they just reboot. Like it's a reboot after a reboot after a reboot, and then a sequel to the reboot, and then a reboot. Okawara did 2000, and then a lot of the crew from 2000 worked on Megaguirus, and then the guy who directed Megaguirus did the Kiryu saga.
Yep.
Kaneko doing GMK. That one's a little separate, but even then, I think it still tonally kind of fits with Heisei. And then you have Final Wars, but
then you could sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you could also just like, I think you said this actually on one of your streams, you could cap it off with 04, and that's the classic era, the Suitmation era. I think you said that on one of your streams. So
yes, my thought process is Heisei and Millennium will be together, which that's going to be an interesting time if we see that the in the West they retroactively remove the Millennium era for being a label. I think that would be a very interesting time. It would make it a little easier. I would be fine with it. We would get a Heisei set that's 14 movies, right? Because that's how many is in Heisei and Millennium together. Is 14 or is it 13?
I'm counting on my fingers. 2000 Megagears, GMK, Kiryu, Final Wars. I think it's 12.
12?
I forgot one.
84 Biollante, King Ghidorah, Mothra, Mechagodzilla.
I forgot King Ghidorah.
2000 Megaguirus, GMK, Kiryu. Yep, it's 13. So it's about the same size as the Showa set. Like, that would work perfectly for them. 2 box sets, 15 and 13. And then what they do is once they release those 2 box sets, like maybe hold off a little bit. And yes, Josh points this out. Technically, 84 is Showa.
Yes,
but they're. I don't know if they'll acknowledge that. But then what they do is once they release that, it sells really well. Then what Criterion does is they wait for what would the 75, 2029, right?
yes,
75. For the 75th anniversary, that's when they do a Godzilla, the classic Toho series, which is 54 to 04, all Suitmation, all the classic Godzilla films.
Smash that pre-order button so hard.
It would
the Ingmar Bergman set they did with like 32 movies.
Mhm.
Totally good.
I mean, the Godzilla set is one of 2 things that Criterion has wanted to do for decades. The other one they've always
laser disdays.
Mm-hmm. The only other one they've ever wanted to do is Kurosawa. They want a 40 film box set for Kurosawa. They have like all but 3 of his movies, which is Ron. It's the second Russian one. They don't have, and then they don't have the gun. It's the one with like the gunmen or something. That's the title. Those are the 3 they don't have.
I don't think 98 is going to be in there. It would kind of amuse me, but I mean, I was thrilled when All Monsters Attack and Megalon got in the collection because it really legitimized them to me in a way that I felt they deserved. All of those films are great. I think the entire show. Oh, Rhapsody in August, yeah. Did they have his last film? I can't remember the title. It was like 2003. Starts with an M.
Kurosawa?
Yeah.
His last film was 94, I think.
Oh, yeah. He died in the 90s. What am I
It was the one right after Matadeo?
Yeah, Matadeo. Yeah. I don't know why I thought that was 03. Jacob, your cinema buff card has been revoked.
I'm pulling up his films now so I can be accurate, but I've done a small deep dive into his stuff.
Here's a question for you. Why has there not been a distributor, and Criterion would be perfect for this, A, They have the license to Rodan and Gargantuas. Where's that release? That's my first note. What's going on with Rodan and
So
Gargantuas?
I have an answer. I have an answer of what I think it is. So one of the things that Criterion likes to do, because Criterion does have the rights to the following films: Rodan, The Mysterians, Varan the Unbelievable, Matango, Atragon, Frankenstein vs. Baragon, Dogora, War of the Gargantuas, Latitude Zero, and Space Amoeba. And is that it? I think so.
Yeah, and pretty much anything that was on the Criterion channel under the Ishiro Honda science fiction, right?
Yes. They have the rights to all of those. The only films that from Honda they're missing is Half Human. Half Human, that was Honda, right?
Yes, and I don't know, that ain't gonna happen.
That's not going to happen. Gorath, which could happen. Yeah, we've got people asking for those. Half Human, Gorath, and King Kong Escapes. King Kong Escapes would be through Universal.
Yeah.
I believe that they are working out a deal for Gorath and King Kong Escapes, and the eventual goal is a Ishiro Honda Kaiju Ega box set, which is all of his non-Godzilla kaiju and genre films.
Cool.
That's my theory. They love doing like filmmaker box sets, and that would be one.
They do a filmmaker box set every year, at least 2 or 3 actually. Like a couple years ago, there was that big Fellini box set that was really nice. You got the big Bergman box set in 2018 for his centennial. Yeah. So my add-on to that is we have never seen a lot of Honda's non-tokusatsu films ever released here. Like Eagle of the Pacific, some of his romance films he directed before Gojira. I don't think I've ever heard that the option for licensing was ever available. I mean, some of these films, like Steve Rifle and gang, had to go to the Honda estate just to see when writing that biography. What do you think is the situation there?
So I believe it's the Blue Pearl. I believe that's what it's called. Rifle and Gotocheski were able to get that one in like very, very limited showings. I think a lot of it comes down to the lack of interest. And what the unfortunate thing is it comes down to is for Ishiro Honda, something that, I mean, it's been a problem since the 60s is Honda has been stereotyped as the monster movie director.
Yes.
And that mentality has not gone away. That mentality of, oh, Ishiro Honda, he's the guy that directed all the Godzilla movies and the monster movies of the 1960s. While I think as time has gone on, that statement has been less of an insult and more of a look at these really good movies that he made, I still think that mentality of nobody's going to care about this director's drama or war movies. Like, I would love to see Farewell Rabal. That's like top of my list. When I wrote That Monster Will Never Forgive Us for Kaiju United, I talked about Farewell Rabal and Eagle of the Pacific because those two, to me, were much like Yamazaki's The Great War of Archimedes and The Eternal Zero. I think those films would be very, very enlightening for anybody who wants to see more of how Godzilla was made. I think those two are the prime films to watch prior to 54 to understand why 54 was the way it is. I would love to see those. One's about Admiral Yamamoto and fighting war in the Pacific. It's got special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya. And then the other is a drama about Zero pilots. And, the whole thing with that. And it would be great to see stuff like that. And like in all of the commentaries for 54, they always talk about Farewell Rabaul and Eagle of the Pacific because they're so important to the rest of Godzilla and Honda's filmography. So it comes down to I honestly believe it's just a lack of interest on a global scale for these films that are very important to cinema history, because without them, Godzilla would not have existed.
Yeah, I
And,
completely agree.
and it is really disappointing because they do need a home, and I think Criterion would be a great place for them. I just don't know, like, between the licensing fees for them, because they're going to say, "Oh, it's Ishiro Honda. He did Godzilla. You're going to have to pay a pretty penny for this film." And a lack of, well, are people really going to be like, "Oh, it's Ishiro Honda. It's the guy who made Godzilla." Like, they're not going to want to watch a drama war movie if they want to see big monster go burr, you know?
Yeah.
So
There's
it's
another one.
really.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was gonna segue that into another discussion, but I want you to finish up your closing thought real quick.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's a really disappointing like ordeal for Honda and his films be in that limbo.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Honda legitimately is one of my favorite directors of all time. Like legit. Everything he has done, aside from maybe like Half Human, couple others, I think are just fantastic, amazing, incredible works of science fiction. Um, Speaking of other directors, because I have this in our about section on the website, because I said that Kaiju United is not only about the kaiju films, but the adjacent films in these directors' filmographies and in tokusatsu adjacent stuff. Criterion Channel has, I think they still do, at least one of them. Jun Fukuda did 2 James Bond parody films starring Akira Takarada called 100 Shot, 100 Killed, Golden Eyes, and Iron Finger. If you haven't watched those, they're a lot of fun. That being said, they are only on the Criterion Channel, and I think it's an absolute crime that they have not seen a release. That's a great double feature release.
I agree.
I'm not understanding the model there. I guess some of it's easier to get the streaming rights and just put it on the Criterion Channel, perhaps.
But the thing about that, though, is Toho most famously does package deals. So when you license a Godzilla movie, you're not just licensing like the physical media rights. You have to get televised, you have to get theatrical, you have to get streaming, you have to get physical. You are like, they only do package deals. That's why Criterion will end up with the Rebirth of Mothra trilogy, because that's going to be in a package deal with the Heisei Godzilla films, and that's why they got Rodan and War of the Gargantuas. Package deal. They're not going to separate their package deal. It's partially for them to get more money, and it's partially for them to just be able to say, hey, they got this. Like, they can help make this stuff get out here with our approval, of course. So they probably and most certainly do have the physical rights. I would love to see those films, not only because, I mean, they're Toho films and they're Fukuda films, but those are great contextual films to understand Ibra, Horror of the Deep.
Absolutely.
And then more so than that, people would finally understand the fact that in Final Wars, there's a amazing callback that nobody understands because they call Takarada Mr. Bullseye in the film. And that is a direct callback to 100 Shot, 100 Killed. And I would love that, like, I would love for that stuff to get out here. And what's really disappointing, I don't remember where I heard this. I want to say it was something Ben Fruya said. Because at All Monsters Attack, he pulled me aside and he was asking me questions like, why is somebody like you who's so young, like, why did you come and just spend so much money to get my autographs and my artwork and all that? And we ended up having like a 20-minute conversation. And I want to say he was the one who brought up, because him and Takarada actually knew each other.
Yeah, they were good friends.
And one of the things I want to say Furuya-san said was, Takarada always wished that people. I mean, he loved the fact that his fans in the States like knew him from his Giant Monster movies, but he really wishes that his other non-kaiju stuff could be brought over, because that stuff would be like, he always wished for that, so people could see him outside of just the the monster movie guy. So in a way, like, it would just be nice to see that.
There's a movie from 2019 by goodness, who directed it? He's a great Japanese director. It's called Dance With Me. It's one of Takarada's last films. If you can find it, can't really find it officially, but I can't tell you where to go. But if you can track it down, it is a great film. It is it's weird that I'm saying this, but it is a romantic comedy that I love. I am so in love with that movie. Donnie is one of my favorite human beings. Kaijumi Addict says, man, so much I didn't know. Yeah, when you put these two people in a room, you're going to learn a thing or two. We're going to have these heavy-handed discussions. Yes, but what was I saying? Yeah, Dance With Me is one of Takarada's last films, and he plays like a magician or a hypnotist. He plays a hypnotist, and he basically hypnotizes this young lady to think that she's in a musical whenever she hears music. So she just breaks out into song and dance. And unfortunately for this woman, the cute, hunky office crush is nearby, and music starts playing. So she's in a musical. So she goes on this road trip to find this hypnotist played by Takarada, track him down, and make him reverse it. It's lovely.
I'm gonna have to look out for that.
Here, I'm gonna pull up the director, Elijah, if you want to add some comments.
Let's see.
It's directed by Shinobu Yaguchi, who's known for Wood Job from 2014. A lot of people love that movie. Swing Girls from 2004.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
It's stuff like that.
I'm pulling up kind of here to see if there's anything that I really recognize. Nothing I really recognize here from him. But I might have to check out his filmography here.
And I hear Woodjob is fantastic. I haven't seen Woodjob yet, but I hear it's a really wonderful movie, and I know it won some awards.
Oh, he did a horror movie.
Nice.
Gakko no Kaidan Haru no Nori Special. It's from 2000. Huh, okay. That's interesting. Oh, he did another one. It looks like he did two of those. The Rain Woman. That sounds familiar.
Akno Goji Kaneko is a masterful director, but Honda will always be my idol. I'm sorry.
See, I think... Let me figure out what I'm... Okay, so if we're talking about the kaiju genre, then I think it's harder to have this discussion. But if we're talking about Godzilla, which is a little easier to have this discussion, I think Honda was the first of the auteur directors to work on a Godzilla.
Yes. Mhm.
Following him, you would have Yoshimitsu Banno. He would be your following auteur director because of his creative input on Hedorah. And then following that, I would say that the next one up would be Shusuke Kaneko. I think he was the return to auteur directing for Godzilla, and then Ryuhei Kitamura. I will forever and ever defend. I can't wait for the day that I can finally let loose on how much I truly defend Final Wars. Because
Elijah, we are planning a Kaiju United Town Hall on the anniversary of Final Wars.
Well, if you need somebody to defend that movie and explain how Final Wars is not a piece of garbage like everybody says it is for some ungodly reason, I will be there in a heartbeat.
So, the invitation for Kaiju United Town Hall, which is a contributor in Kaiju United staff discussion podcast, is open for Final Wars and Elijah.
Well, if the invitation's out there, the invitation's already been accepted. So
I can't wait. All right. Did Elijah say 95 as theater rights?
Yes, they have the rights for that, and I'm pretty sure they're going to continue to get more. If they haven't already, they might already have actually all the rights for the rest. What are the chances of a two-day theater run? None of the Heisei films have got a theater run. So, okay. There will not ever be a special 2-day run, but you could, in theory, assume that they would do a maybe 1-day Fathom event one year, or they will be in little art house independent cinemas. One of the amazing things about Janus having the rights, like I have a local small theater. They, in the last 4 years, have played almost 20 Godzilla movies. And it's because they have a working, they've shown House, they've shown a lot of Criterion films. So I've had the privilege to see House in theaters.
That's a dream of mine. I'd love to see House.
It was amazing. So they've played 54. They've played Mothra. They've played Ghidorah. They've played Mechagodzilla. They've played a ton, and it's because Criterion has the rights. So if you want to see those, I wouldn't say expect anything until 2025. Again, 2025 is the year to look out for whatever Criterion's doing. But I would look for any small theaters, any film festivals, look then, because that's when Criterion will be licensing their transfer with their logos, their subtitles, and that's when they're going to start showing stuff. 2025.
There's a reason that Kaiju Brooklyn is screening Godzilla 84.
There is a reason, and I guarantee you're going to see a logo for Janus when you see that. Kaiju Fanatic, Final Wars is my number one movie. My co-host Rex, favorite movie is Final Wars for his birthday / Christmas / graduation gift. One of the things I bought him and shipped to him, which he lives in Australia, which is a disaster to ship to, by the way. I bought him the Final Wars completion book. That was one of his top books he wanted to buy, so I bought that for him for a gift. Matt needs to be there too for Final Wars, I believe.
For Town Hall, yeah.
Kaiju Fanatic, Final Wars is the accumulation of everything representing Godzilla in one crazy movie. Nobody can prove me wrong. I agree. It is the culmination of 50 years of Godzilla. It's got a heavy emphasis on your 70s, but it's done right, unlike Adam Wingard, if you ask me. We're getting a lot of Final Wars love. I love this chat. This is an amazing chat. Thank you guys so much. Also, Dadzilla Bowser, hello, welcome to the stream. Holy crap, 20 films? Yes. 20 films. So, if you haven't seen anything in your area, definitely keep an eye out. I know I asked them recently. I was like, hey, there's theaters starting to show the 54 4K and 84 in Biollante. Is that something you guys would do? And they were like, well, we've shown so much in recent times. We're kind of wanting to steer away from that for a little bit. But there's, I'll keep an eye out. There might be something after GXK potentially. So like I will absolutely keep an eye out. I feel like with it being the 70th anniversary, they should they do this thing. It's brand new where they do like a director month. Where like each month they pick a director and they'll show like 4 of his movies, his or hers movies. So I'm thinking like maybe a Honda month, show 54, show like Mothra versus Astro Monster. I saw Ghidra, the 3-headed monster, there, and that was amazing.
Who has the rights to Mothra?
So Mothra, H-Man, and Battle in Outer Space are all in perpetuity owned by Sony Pictures / Columbia Classics. They've been sub-licensed out to Mill Creek Entertainment, but that's a license that Mill Creek owns with Sony. So Sony's the ones that Criterion will inevitably probably have to go through to get the rights to those films. It doesn't matter if Mill Creek has a license or not because they can still do that.
Sub-license. Okay.
Yes. I would definitely expect that happening as well. The good thing about Sony and Universal being involved is they both have worked with Criterion. Like Criterion's whole thing is they've sub-licensed from so many companies and they have good working relationships. That stuff like this can happen and it works. We got the Steelbook is rock on. Love it. It's a really cool Steelbook. I do love it. I do wish they had more bonus features, but never say never. And then Night Ravens just popping in here. Hey, hello. How is everyone doing? We're doing pretty good. But personally, if Criterion does get Mothra, H-Man, and Battle in Outer Space, which they should, they're Honda films. The one thing I request, and if Criterion does this, they win. I'm happy. I will forever be happy with that box set. Those are in. What is? You must include the David Callett audio commentaries produced by Eureka Entertainment for those limited edition Blu-rays. Must include those.
Yes.
Not to like throw out stuff I've done, but so David Callett is my favorite audio commentator for Godzilla. And recently I got the privilege to be the Kaiju historian. I say that with air quotes. I did not name myself this. This was something that was given to me by Mr. Ron Bonk of SRS Cinema, that title, to do an audio commentary for Yuzo, the Biggest Battle in Tokyo. Which that was a long thing. But David Callett, this is where I'll say it. David Callett was my absolute I gotta try and make something that is up to par with him. Something that I would feel like he could say, "Hey, that's pretty decent."
And the fact that you did that for a indie kaiju film is splendid because I think a lot of these indie movies, it'd be nice to have them get that kind of treatment.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. Is so Yuzo is directed by director / special effects director Yoshikazu Ishii. He worked on Final Wars. He's worked on Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, Ultraman Ginga S, Ultraman Saga. And then most recently, he directed a movie called Attack of the Giant Teacher.
I love that movie.
It's
movie
great.
So much heart.
It's such an enduring and heartfelt movie. And I haven't watched it since it's been a couple years, but I need to rewatch it because I think I have found a newfound appreciation for his films after like doing this deep dive that I did. But Yuzo is his most recent film, and I was like, you know what? I got to attend the world premiere. Full disclosure, I got to be there for the world premiere. I got to talk to him again. I met him at G Fest 2019 for Giant Teacher, but then I got to meet him for Yuzo.
Where was the premiere?
So it was held at the Kansas City Underground Film Festival.
Awesome.
I have no idea how it ended up there, but it did. And I did get footage of the premiere, his introduction and his Q&A, which are bonus features on the release. So I not only produced a commentary, but I produced a video interview, and I produced that footage from the premiere for them to include. So hopefully everybody gets to enjoy the bonus features and the audio commentary. But I felt like I have grown to appreciate the independent kaiju film, especially subgenre that has recently become more and more well known in the States.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is thriving. It is keeping tokusatsu alive, in my opinion. Yeah, we get the cool Godzilla Fest shorts, but I think these indie guys are just keeping that thing alive wholeheartedly all the way to the end.
And that's their whole goal. That's something you'll hear in the audio commentary. I had the privilege to get comments from some of the actors and suit modeler and director Ishii himself about stuff, and they do mention how like this is to keep tokusatsu alive and well. So you know, all this the backtrack to they need like for Yuzo, I wanted to create something of high quality, and David Cowlett to me is peak kaiju commentator. Like that's your peak. You can't go any better than him. And he did a commentary for Mothra, H-Man, and Battle in Outer Space, but it's a UK exclusive. When those get re-released by Criterion, they need to include those because those commentaries are probably full of amazing information, amazing comments, and just a great analysis of the film. So that's my hope for when that inevitably comes out.
That would be spectacular. Wow. Okay. That was a long rant. If you guys are still here, you can also ask us questions because I think we'll stay on a little bit. But I just got a message that I've been on this stream for almost 2 hours. Yes, I have. And we're still going.
We're still going. It's still, I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to talk everybody's ear off because I have too much to say. But I still think we have a pretty healthy conversation going somehow. But we haven't talked about Kurosawa without just very briefly.
Where do we begin with Kurosawa? I mean, you just watched
Throne of Blood.
Throne of Blood is so good. And even on a Shakespeare level, it's brilliant. I'm not a Shakespeare fan, but I am very well read in Shakespeare. I understand it. It is one of those things that I understand, but I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Macbeth. I love me some Macbeth. There's some really great Macbeth adaptations out there, but I think Kurosawa did it the best.
See, so in school we had to read Romeo and Juliet. I don't know how I'm past that unit because I didn't read more than 2 pages of Romeo and Juliet. I don't know what it is. I could not get interested in it. I have respect for the man. The man was like a like he pushed the way for performing and acting and entertaining like that. Oh boy, Adam's in the chat.
Somehow, bro, you're like 2 sentient IMDb pages. Yeah, it's like two walking encyclopedias of kaiju are just colliding right now. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I read Shakespeare too, but it just wasn't my thing. But the way the Kurosawa changes things up to make it like it's like he took the opening act of not Hamlet. What am I talking about? What am I talking about here? The opening act of Macbeth, where it was like the ghosts and the spooky stuff, and he went, "That's the whole movie."
See, okay, so one of my like sub-genre hobbies, I have like in the last 2 years like done not a deep dive, but I have jumped into the world of Japanese horror. Which has suddenly recontextualized GMK, by the way. Like if you do your research on J horror and watch stuff and understand, the filmmakers of the time, how Kaneko-san was one of those directors with films like God's Left Hand, Devil's Right Hand, and Pyrokinesis, and he even did some of the haunted school movies that were really popular in the mid to late 90s. I just rattled off way too much, but Kaneko was a part of that wave of Japanese horror that really hit it off with Hideo Nakata's Ring and Takashi Shimizu's Ju-on. And then, of course, you had your Miike's and your Koichi Kurosawas and whatnot. But understanding that, suddenly you realize that GMK for the first, 45 minutes to an hour is just a horror movie. It is a straight-up J horror movie. Hang on. Dadzilla Bowser says, how funny. I'm not into horror, but of all things I found at Walmart was a 10-movie collection of... Really?
Whoa.
What?
That's cool.
What is this? Bad. The only thing I saw was there was a box set with the 2021 remake of Cube that was done in Japan. I didn't know there was a 10-movie collection of horror, Japanese horror movies. Now I'm interested. But like J horror is something that I have jumped right into and I love. And it's really interesting because Kanto Shindo, he wrote The Whale God. He also was director on Kuroneko, a 1968 horror movie set in Edo period Japan.
If you guys have not seen The Whale God, I highly recommend you do. It's wonderful. It's great. It's like a spooky, atmospheric Moby Dick. And that's kind of what happened at the time. You got stuff like Onibaba, which is not Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. We're just going completely off the rails here, but it is contextualizing the era of these films. They were all more like Oni-based spooky ghost stories. Kwaidan is a Japanese anthology that's like 3 hours, but it is like one of the coolest Japanese horror movies ever made.
Cinema. Kwaidan is peak cinema. Like I cannot, like, that movie, when I watched it for the first time, I was in complete and total awe. Like, it was so amazing. The opening the opening segment, which is the black hair, is such a horrifying and amazing section. I love the crane shots and the use of the sound stages, like everything about it. It's very theatrical, and this is the perfect segue to the point I was trying to make, and then got off on a crazy train. Throne of Blood came out before all of this. Throne of Blood was in 1957, and then Kwaidan 65, Kuroneko's 1968, Whale God's 1962, and there's a whole slew. Matango 1962, directed by Ishiro Honda. It's all of that's post Throne of Blood. Throne of Blood.
Kevin, we're still live.
We're still alive. It's I forgot the little banner. So now we got and live from somebody's basement. It's Kaiju Conversation.
But yeah, I mean, everything about that film is special. I mean, everyone gushes about the ending sequence with the arrows, and that's why I said, Elijah, I'm not going to tell you anything, but just remember my comment about that. And everyone knows those are real arrows, which is absolutely insane. You could do that back then. For those of you that don't know, this is not a spoiler. Just seeing at the end where Toshiro Mifune gets shot by a bunch of arrows, and they had real archers shoot arrows at him, and some of them hit him. Of course, he's okay. He had padding. He did say it hurt a little bit, just the force of getting hit by an arrow. But what a way to shock the audience at the time. I mean, you already had the spooky, gothic, incredible, just the whole the castle set and everything is just it is one of the most atmospheric movies I've ever seen, and it immerses you within this world on a flawless level. I mean, I would say it's one of the 10 essential Japanese films, period, end of story. That's how much I love this movie.
It was really good, and especially if we want to talk about the sorry, I had to take care of something real quick. If you want to talk about the atmosphere and everything, the film, and when I first saw it, I had a conversation on the Kaiju Conversation Discord. People were talking about in the film and just in general, in all of Kurosawa's films with Mifune. Mifune's acting is really big, and it's not very subtle or cinematic. It's very theatrical. And something that's so poetic about Throne of Blood is just how theatrical the film is, because the cinematography, the acting, everything about it is it's very theatrical, which works for the film because it's an adaptation of Macbeth, inspired by Shakespeare. So the fact it's this theatrical film just adds to it. And that's something that Kurosawa did so flawlessly, was his acting and the visual presence. So everything on screen that you are watching was very theatrical, from the sets to the acting to the story. It was a very theatrical film, but the cinematography was very modern and Western. And Kurosawa brought those two things together, which is why he has been hailed as one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, because he was able to bring back that theatrical aspect of performing into film while also making it look modern. It was the blending of classic traditional performing and modern traditional performing, which has created it created this amazing thing. And just the Japanese horror aspects of the film are amazing. They're truly amazing. They're legitimately horrifying. And it's all thanks to that atmosphere. And I can't talk about the atmosphere and the cinematography and the actual horror without talking about how the score does not sound like Sato-san, but Marusu Sato outdid himself in that.
Yep.
Enough said. It's just so unique and so original. And that's the beauty of Throne of Blood. It's still not my favorite Kurosawa film, full disclosure. Yojimbo just has my heart.
That's like a high tier classic though. Yojimbo is fantastic. While we're on the topic of Kurosawa and Shakespeare, I do want to point out for you nerds out there that there's two more Kurosawa films that we know are heavily Shakespeare-y, and that is The Bad Sleep Well, which is from 1960. That is that is like Hamlet pretty much, which is cool. And there's also a film from 1985 called Ron, which is basically King Lear. So if you like Shakespeare, you should go seek out these three films because Kurosawa liked Shakespeare too. And I think they're mighty fine adaptations, taking the thematic elements of what should be like a medieval story and placating it into, I guess it's medieval Japan, the Edo period. So I just phenomenal films. And we could sit here for hours and gush about Japanese cinema. Like, I'll plug myself for a bit. I did an interview last September with Jeffrey Angles, the translator of Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again, when those books came out, the Shigeru Kayama novelizations. And if you read that interview, it's like 30% Godzilla and 70% Japanese literature and cinema, and it's wonderful. In fact, here's one of the pieces of literature that he recommended, which is Kobo Abe's The Woman in the Dunes, which was adapted into a film, and it's released by the Criterion Collection. Great, strange story about, a man being trapped in the dunes and finding someone else there. It's very anti-capitalist in a very unique way. Just a fascinating tale. But all of these movies connect to, I'm starting to like write on the chalkboard here and like, that gif. But all of these movies come back to Godzilla in some way. Every single one.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Yep. I wish J-horror these days were as good as the good old days. Well, I've heard Immersion. I think it is Immersion, the newest Shimizu film, is actually really good. Rex watched it. He got to see that and Nakatsu's most recent film recently. Dadzilla Bowser, I can't find it online. Next time at Walmart, I'll take a pic and send it to Kaiju United. Please do. I want to see that. I want to see it. And then he followed up. Anyways, got to go. Have the flu and fever. Ooh, I had that a few weeks ago. Best of luck, man. That kicked my butt. So
get some rest, man. Get some rest.
Yeah. Best of luck, and thanks again for featuring my art on your Twitter page, Kaiju United. Have a good night.
Dadzilla did a great piece that's referencing a Kiss album I forgot the name of, but it's instead of the four guys in Kiss, it's Godzilla Kaiju around in a circle. It's pretty rad.
Is it them? Is it the one where they're all like walking? Is it that one?
No, it's like their heads. It's
cool. Rock and Roll Over.
Rock and Roll Over. Yes, that's the album, Rock and Roll Over by Kiss. So it's pretty rad. You guys should go find it. I retweeted it. I'm going to share it in the Facebook group tonight. But question, how are they doing tickets for G-Fest this year? You just buy them online. Just go to their website.
Yeah. And then they'll email you a PDF with your ticket that you can either print out or just hold on to digitally, and then you just bring that to G-Fest. Early bird rates are gone. We're now on to standard rates. They've been gone since I want to say January 1st. So,
and panel submissions are due in 7 days. So if you want to submit a panel, you should probably do that pretty quickly.
Yeah. And Helmy says, aren't those movies out on Arrow and Eureka? Which ones? I think everything we've talked about has been Criterion. Ring is Arrow.
Ju-On is Arrow.
Ju-On is Arrow. I don't know if anything else we talked about. I know Immersion and the most recent Nakata film have not got distributors yet. I don't know if they will. A lot of people seem to really diss on modern J horror, so that's something that might not work.
Yeah.
So
Elijah, go ahead.
I was going to say we have successfully linked kaiju to J horror to Japanese drama, all within 2 hours. We have connected everything. It's all connected. I feel like Charlie Day.
I think that's a great way to wrap things up too. Just so we're not keeping people on longer than a feature length movie just listening to my voice, because that's a little crazy.
Well,
yeah.
Before we do leave, we have to do the most noblest of podcasting and live streaming traditions. So before we do that, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I'm going to plug myself real quick, just because that's what you do at the end of these things. Like I said, I am Jacob. I'm the editor-in-chief of Kaiju United, which is a Facebook group now turned into a website. We are on the cusp of our anniversary next month. March 7th is the exact anniversary date, but we'll do some festivities before and after that date. Lots of fun articles, reviews, news, interviews. Got a couple interviews coming soon. We're always looking for the best and brightest of the kaiju community in terms of writers, in terms of creators, artists, musicians we talk to, if you make kaiju music, like Map and the Bright Humans. So, doors always open. Please join our group. Check out the site. Elijah writes some pretty great articles that we publish and republish. So, definitely give us a check out.
All right. And then, unless you have anything else to plug, I'll transition over here to my plugging and then the podcast, and then we'll wrap things up.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Elijah, and I have a kaiju and tokusatsu problem. Oh wait, this isn't KA. Sorry. Joking aside, I am Elijah Thomas. I am the co-host of the podcast Kaiju Conversation with my co-host and good friend Rex. We cover the wide world of tokusatsu, from kaiju and giant monsters to henshin heroes and J-horror. You can find us on any podcast platform. You can also find our social media feeds on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at kaiju_converse. I'm also a part of the rotating hosts for Monsters with Attitude. You can check us out on YouTube, where we do monthly live streams. We actually just did one covering Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. And we're starting the hype train for next month, which is going to be on Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 1974. But we talk the world of kaiju entertainment. You can also head over to Facebook and join our Facebook group. It's a great place to talk with like-minded people. I'm also a writer. I've written for GodzillaMovies.com. I've appeared in Kaiju Ramen Magazine. And currently I write for Kaiju United. My most recent article, if I remember correctly, is the Gamera, A History on Home Video, where it's updated, it's republished, but it's updated, covering everything up until 2021 that Arrow has done with the license. My writing has also been featured in the book Giant Bug Cinema, A Monster Kid's Guide from Bear Manor Media, where I wrote a review for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I'm also a filmmaker and YouTuber. You can check out my stuff on my YouTube channel, ET13 Productions, where you can see some of my short films and a lot of old YouTube videos that are awful, if you ask me now. But I do plan on getting some of my other short films that I've produced out there eventually. It's just I'm dragging my feet on that because I've got so much to do. But outside of that, on the channel, there's also a playlist that features all of my appearances on YouTube. So, you know, if you want to see what else I've talked about GMK, I've talked about Monarch, I've talked about a plethora of kaiju and tokusatsu things. I've also appeared in a kaiju movie, a little-known film called Zillafoot from 2021. I made a brief cameo in the film as Skywatcher number 2. It's got a rating of 3.7 out of 10 on IMDb, so you know it's peak cinema. You can watch it on Blu-ray. You can get the Blu-ray on srscinema.com, or buy the DVD from any major online retailer, or just watch it on Tubi with ads, or just go on Prime and watch it without ads. You can also check out my action figure photography on my Instagram at et13_productions or my Twitter account at the same handle. But as for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That boosts the ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. If you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, this joke is getting old. I'm literally using a MacBook right now. I should probably rewrite this part of the script. But Spotify now offers that, so you can rate us on Spotify. If you want to stay up to date with all things Kaiju Conversation related, follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. And if you don't have Twitter, you can follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook at the same handle. If you're like me before podcasting and you don't have any social media, lucky you. Very lucky. You can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. And as always, we'll read your reviews on air for everyone to hear on those episodes of the podcast. We also have a Teespring store. Eventually, we're going to have original artwork on there, but until then, you can sport our awesome logo on a t-shirt or maybe even get a coffee mug. If you'd like to chat with us, check out our Discord server full of others that have similar interests to you. It's a great community full of great people. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a video or go live. We do post exclusives to the channel like bloopers and whatnot, or mini-sodes. We also have these live streams at least once a month. Friday, I will be live with Titanic Creations, Matt McClintock, talking about Younguri, the action figure, which I'll finally be able to talk about how I helped get that thing made. So that's going to be exciting to finally be able to talk about this thing that we've been working on since August of last year. So that'll be pretty exciting. We also have an interview with Mechagodzilla designer Jared Kerchevsky on the channel. I definitely butchered his name, but I apologize for that. But we do talk about his Ready Player One in 2021 Mechagodzilla design. And he's doing Godzilla, Bleep, and Titanus Doug, Suko, and I think Scar King. I think he worked on all of them, plus the two Bleep characters. One's not a spoiler, one's kind of a spoiler. So that's pretty cool for the new upcoming movie. A huge thanks to Rex for editing all of the stuff we upload and all the other content, like episodes and whatnot. His links can be found in the description below. Along with Rex, we'd like to give a huge thanks and shout out to Danny DeMana of the Godzilla Novelization Project for his amazing vocals on our theme song. You can support him by following him on Twitter at Danzilla93_GNP or visit his website, GodzillaNovelizationProject.com. A huge thanks to Grattan Conwell from the podcast Giant Monster BS for composing the music for our theme song. You can support him by following the podcast on Twitter at Giant Monster BS or on any podcast platform under the name Giant Monster BS. And with that, I'm going to stop talking here and wrap up so we can move on with our lives. So thank you guys so much for joining and listening. Thank you for interacting in the chat. Thank you, Jacob, for coming on and talking. This has been a great conversation. I have loved this. This has been a great conversation into the wide world of Japanese cinema. So thank you so much.
I've had a great time. I've had a lovely time talking, and it sounds like I need to get a script like Elijah's because my plug was very brief. But nonetheless, I had a wonderful time. I am a cinema guy before anything kaiju, so if I run Kaiju United, I gotta be a pretty big cinema buff, right? But it's been really fun. I'm finally excited that I sat down with Elijah one-on-one because it's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you guys again for everyone who's joined. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. So the only thing I have left to say is, everybody, please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.